Hi guys, welcome to our daily encounter. Today in our reading, we get into some of the more difficult passages in the book of Ezekiel. And those are the ones that are connected to this temple that Ezekiel has a vision of. He's taken upon a high mountain and he looks down on the city and he sees this temple. And the temple is measured for him, and he's given all the different dimensions and the different gates and all the different porches and spaces within this particular temple. And it's clear that this temple is a holy temple. It's an orderly temple. It's a symmetrical temple. It's a beautiful temple. And Ezekiel is able to see this. And there's been a lot of speculation as to what exactly this temple is referring to. Some future temple that is to be constructed. Is it talking about some temple that was in the past? The dimensions don't seem to match any other temple, not Solomon's temple or even the tabernacle. Or is it just merely symbolic and just points to things, spiritual truths in the future? Well, I think that we have to kind of look ahead to tomorrow's reading to really see what this vision was really all about, what was the purpose of it. When we get into chapter 43, we're going to see that this temple was actually a rebuke towards the exiles. You know, as you're reading through Ezekiel, initially, as we come across this temple, we might think, well, this is an encouraging word from the Lord showing them that he's not done with them. Maybe we're thinking we still have the valley of dry bones in our minds, and we're thinking this is just another example of the Lord saying, I'm not done with you. There's going to be this glorious temple. But as we get into chapter 43 tomorrow, we're going to see that this is actually a rebuke. It says in verse 10, "As for you, son of man, describe the house of Yahweh to the house of Israel, that they may feel dishonor for their iniquities, and let them measure the plan." And it goes on in verse 11, "If they feel dishonor for all that they have done, make it known to them the design of the house, its structure, its exits, its entrances, and all its designs and its statutes and all its laws, and write it in their sight so that they may keep the whole design and all its statutes and do them. This is the law of the house," verse 12, "within the entire boundary on the top of the mountain all around shall be most holy. Behold, this is the law of the house." So the law of the house was really holiness and the holiness that this temple exhumed or expressed. And so as they would see this temple, they would see this holy structure and realize just how short they have fallen of the holiness of God and how they've fallen short in connection to this temple. And some have suggested that perhaps this temple is actually a vision of what the temple, Solomon's temple, could have grown to be. That perhaps had they stayed faithful to the Lord from the time of Solomon on through all of the kings, maybe Ezekiel is seeing a vision of what could have been. What could have been had they remained faithful. They could have had this holy dwelling among them. They, being holy people, could have gone into this temple and been able to draw close to the Lord. This temple might be showing them exactly how much they have fallen short. But it definitely is a call to holiness, as well as mentioned in the verses we just read. And so as they read about this temple and its holiness, it ought to be, one, a rebuke against them of how they've fallen short of the holiness of God as exemplified by this temple, but also to encourage them then to express that holiness in their living and to use it as inspiration to try to express that same holiness in their lives. And as we as New Testament believers, we can look at this temple and be encouraged in the same way. There certainly seems to be some allusions to the church in this temple. The church is the fulfillment of God's desire to have a dwelling place and therefore to have a temple here on the earth. And he no longer dwells in temples made with hands, but he dwells in human hearts. He dwells among his people, and we have the kingdom of God dwelling within us. And as we look at this temple and we see how holy it is, it ought to remind us of how holy we should be. As we reflect on New Testament passages that talk about us as a temple, we could think about 1 Corinthians chapter 3. We could think about 1 Corinthians chapter 6. We could also look at 1 Peter chapter 2. All these different passages that talk about the fact that we are the temple of the Lord. And as such, we have a high calling. We have a calling to holiness. And this temple, as we view it through the words expressed by Ezekiel, we should be encouraged to exemplify the holiness that this temple exemplifies. To live a godly, a holy, an orderly, symmetrical life, a life that is beautiful and honoring to God, and one that is holy. And hopefully we can be encouraged to do that as we read about this beautiful temple that's being described. So as we do our reading today, let's think about what this might have meant to the exiles that Ezekiel was told to give this vision to, but let's also reflect on it for ourselves and to be inspired to try to attain to the holiness that this temple exemplifies, and in doing so, honoring God. And with that, guys, I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.